Welcome to Dino Park Media. My name is Samuel, and with me today I have back again a very special guest, Chaz, who's actually been a part of a video before when we went deeper into the actual security at InGen and a little bit more about understanding their security measures. Chaz is such a wealth of knowledge when it comes to lore and backstory in the Jurassic universe. So we're so super excited to have you on. Chaz, why don't you go ahead and say hello?
Hello, everyone. Hey, Sam. Thanks for having me back.
Dude, absolutely. Man, it's been too long probably, but there's been a little while of a hiatus that I've been taking because just different things have happened and transpired. So just need to get some things personally put away, but I'm so glad that we're back to it. And dude, it's just really good to have you on. And today's topic we're going to be getting into is very interesting. We're going to be getting into Biosyn and looking back at a lot of what its involvement was as a company in the Jurassic universe as a whole. And as we did last time in the last video that you were in, we're going to look at the movies and see their involvement in the movies, but also you being a huge Michael Crichton fan and an original Jurassic Park and the Lost World book fan, you are going to be providing a little bit of extra backstory for us as well. Isn't that right?
Yes, sir. I got a whole bunch of notes on this stuff.
So you're the guy, perfect. You're the guy that we need to be talking to. So it's going to be a great conversation that we're going to have today. So let's just go ahead and jump straight into this. And we're going to start off right away with understanding a little bit more of its Biosyn's backstory in the movies. And of course, it technically is in Jurassic Park 1, even though it's never actually named. Isn't that right?
Yeah, technically. Yeah, it's never named. The only name that we get is Louis Dodson.
Right. And so, like we get the representative Louis Dodson from Biosyn, but we never actually understand, at least in context of the movie, who he's actually working for. All we understand is that it's a rival company that wants to get InGen secrets, but we don't really know too much about it. Can you explain a little bit more of, like, if anything, what we can deduce from that little scene where Louis Dodson and Nedry are talking in Costa Rica?
Okay, well, Dodson makes cab drivers angry.
Right.
Out of the way. That man overacts a little bit in that part. He is very upset.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
So Dodson is talking to Nedry and is paying him $1.75 million.
Something like that.
Yeah. He gets the rest on delivery. He's only paying him part up front. And he wants one of every embryo on the island.
Mm-hmm.
He wants them transported back in the Barbasol can. No menthol.
No menthol, right? Which Nedry's just so excited. It got that squeak thing going on that he just loves so much.
I feel so bad for whoever is going to eat that pie and think that's whipped cream.
Right? Yeah, that's every single person watching that movie's just like ultimate fear of, like, I if I ever have like key lime pie or any sort of pie in the future, I got to make sure it's not shaving cream.
Oh, that would be terrible. And so basically he wants them to transport all the embryos off the island. And also Nedry says, I have an 18-minute window. Your company will get 10 years worth of research.
Mm-hmm.
So he's sending them the research as well, and then delivering the embryos to his guy on the dock. And that's basically all we know for the first film.
Not a lot to go off of.
No. It's sparse.
Very sparse. But we do hear, which I think is actually a very important point from Nedry, 18-minute window, and your company catches up on 10 years of research. So that line right there obviously it's showing that Dodson's company, which we know as Biosyn, us Jurassic fans and people that know the books, we know that Biosyn is this company that's a rival to InGen. But can you provide us with any understanding based upon your knowledge, like, when Nedry says 10 years of research, was Biosyn really like that far behind in their understanding? Like, obviously they had to be behind to the degree where they would be willing to, commit corporate espionage. But but are they really that far behind that like they're hopelessly lost to the point where they need to like 10 years behind to the point where they need Nedry?
So not to get too much into the book part yet, but
Sure.
the book talks about it, and they were, if they're going off of the source material, they were that far behind. Like it would take them that long because they have to develop everything from scratch. They have nothing in terms of research or genetics on the level that Dr. Wu was doing, and InGen was doing at that time.
Wow. Okay. So like you said, we're not going to get too far into that because we want to jump more into the book's lore here in a little bit after we explain the movies. But that's a good little teaser because for me personally, I've always wanted to know more about Biosyn as a company, and thankfully we got a lot more in Dominion. And we'll talk about that here in just a hot second and right after this. But it's just really good hearing from you. Like, okay, yes, no, there was actually some real precedent here as to the state of the company of the rival company to InGen. As far as like, there's a lot more to that line of 18-minute window and your company catches up on 10 years of research. Like there's a lot more to that line, and we'll jump into that in a second. But first, there's one more movie in the entire 6-movie saga of the Jurassic films. The last one, Dominion, finally gives us an understanding of Biosyn, actually name drops the company, first of all. And second of all, it also gives us a really deep dive into the motives of Dodgson and what they were doing. And even to the point where they actually did catch up on their research and actually did clone dinosaurs. But Chaz, why don't you go ahead and explain, give us a pretty good nutshelling of what we got to learn about Biosyn and Jurassic World Dominion.
Okay. So the interesting thing is that, we're doing spoilers on Dominion, correct? It's been long enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So obviously, spoiler alert, we're going deep dive into this, guys. So yeah, if you haven't seen Dominion, I don't know why you're clicking on this, but yes, like spoiler alert here. So thank you very much. Yes, that's right,
not
Chaz.
a problem. So the interesting thing here is with Biosyn and Dominion is that our introduction to them isn't dinosaurs, it's genetically altered locusts.
Yeah.
And genetically altered Biosyn crops.
Yes.
Which, excuse me, has kind of a precedent in the book because, they were trying to get dinosaurs. So it's a very Crichton, the locust thing. But so basically what happens is Dodson's company, Biosyn Genetics, because he's the CEO at this point, creates genetically altered prehistoric locusts, not just plain, genetically altered locusts, but prehistoric ones.
Right. They got to be supersized for what he's trying to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Because basically he has one of those classic schemes of, hey, I made this thing and it eats all the crops except for Biosyn crops. So you guys better buy Biosyn crops.
Classic Dodgson.
Just that is it's almost literally like the same exact thing, just kind of twisted around.
Yep.
From the book, which is nice. So essentially, that's kind of our introduction to them, and then we go to the Biosyn Sanctuary, which is essentially the Apple headquarters.
Right.
And they have these dinosaurs from all over the place. They have dinosaurs from Sorna, Nublar. The dinosaurs have been running loose. They've, from what I can tell, created their own raptors and other dinosaurs like the Therizinosaurus, the Pyroraptor, the Giganotosaurus.
Yep.
The Dimetrodon. They have a Dimetrodon.
Yes, which it's not that we have a T-Rex, it's we have a Dimetrodon. Yeah, say it again.
We have a whole tunnel of Dimetrodons.
Yeah, which makes you wonder, like, why? What? Like, who thought it would be a good idea to like let them like just chill in the tunnel? Like, why are they not out there in the preserve? But you know what? That's for a different video. But yeah, so they also have Dimetrodons.
It's odd. You're right. It's odd that they're in the Hyperloop track essentially. Like, did Dodgson put them there specifically just to, in case, Malcolm or somebody acts up and can stop the Hyperloop and open the doors?
Right. See, we don't fire people here. We Dr. Evil send them to their death. Okay. So like we have like this specific little kill tunnel with Dimetrodons that we just keep in there, starving them until somebody gets out of line in the company. And we just like go ahead and, instead of having him sign an NDA, we just throw him in the tunnel and have him get him killed by Dimetrodons. Yeah, that makes sense, right?
Yeah. He puts him on the train. He grabs himself some trail mix or a banana or a sandwich or whatever he's eating. Because the man, this Dodson is eating constantly.
He's snackalicious for sure.
My word, the man is all murder, genetics, and snacks.
Yep, murder, genetics, and snacks. How would you wrap up Dodson in 3 words? Murder, genetics, and snacks. Right there. That's yep. This man.
That is Dominion Dodson for sure.
That's hilarious.
Now, another interesting thing is the Barbasol can.
Yes.
Dodson has the Barbasol can in his office at the Biosyn Sanctuary.
Yes.
We'll have to go into that at a later time because I'm pretty sure Camp Cretaceous season 5 is going to cover how he gets that.
Oh, okay. That's an eye roll from me there, Captain. But yes,
yeah. Okay. Yeah. See, so when I got out of the film, I was wondering how he has it and why it's so important to him. He took it with him when everything was going awry. But after that trailer came out, I guess we'll find out.
We'll figure something out.
Yeah.
But as far as Dominion goes, though, when it comes back to our murder genetics snacks guy, so we learn a little bit more about his intentions of wanting to control the world's food supply. But what was the point of him even getting dinosaurs into the preserve in the first place? Can you explain that part to me?
So here's the interesting thing is that during his conversations with like Dr. Wu, who's a doctor again, I guess.
Got reinstated, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. But he's maybe Biosyn, slid some money around, helped him out. When he's talking to Dr. Wu, there's this one conversation they have about the locust, and he mentioned something about how it was supposed to be not really that important. Like it wasn't going to be the main thing for Biosyn. It was just something for them to make money.
Mm-hmm.
And the locust kind of got out of control. So right. I think that he's, I know because he talks about it. The different like cures and different sorry.
No, you're good.
I was trying to figure out how to phrase that. Different like medical technologies and different medicines and gene therapies and stuff that they're getting from these dinosaurs.
Yeah. Okay.
I believe Ramsey actually mentions that to Ellie and Alan when they first get there.
Yes. Now that you mention it, I do remember that being a brief little thing that Ramsey mentioned, talking about how they're learning so much about curing diseases of the present with the genetics and understanding of the past. So that was a brief moment there as well. Yes, I remember that now.
Yeah. So I believe the purpose of having all the dinosaurs there in where was that? It was in the mountains in
Italy, wasn't it?
Italy. Yeah. Or was it India?
No, it was definitely Italy, because I remember them flying to Europe to get to Malta, and then from Malta they jumped to Italy.
Okay. I couldn't remember. I've only seen the film one time. I couldn't remember.
I don't blame you, but at the same time, it's also like, dude, why Italy? It's so random. Like I get it. They wanted to kind of like diversify. Like not everything is going to happen in the United States or in Costa Rica or little islands off Costa Rica. I get it, and actually I'm a fan of expanding it. I just don't remember the mountain range from Italy that it's in. It's just kind of obscure to me, but that's okay. Jurassic World Dominion wasn't my favorite film out of the saga for many reasons, but Biosyn still being in the movie was still a huge thing for me. And when it comes to the dinosaurs too, it seems like they got the dinosaurs on in order to be able to generate interest with actually bringing more scientists and more people onto the team in the first place. People were so enthralled with dinosaurs, and they would have the opportunity to be able to actually study them and do research on them if they came to work at Biosyn. Did you pick that up in the movie as well?
Yes, I did. And the interesting thing is how busy the Biosyn sanctuary is, how much staff and they have a barista there. There's basically a Starbucks inside of this place.
Right.
And you compare that to what Engine had, on the original island. There was a handful of people in a control room.
Right.
One of which was a game warden, one of which was the CEO of the company, and they had two people on computers running the entire park.
Yep.
So they definitely have a much larger staff. They're generating revenue off of these dinosaurs. People are making a living, even the barista guy, off of working at the sanctuary in the middle of nowhere mountains.
Yeah, right, exactly. So obviously they had to be able to create tons of revenue with some very key money sources. And if you had to nail down those specific money sources, like I know that you mentioned a couple of different things that they're experimenting with that the company was involved with, but if you had to nail it down to like a handful of things that were actually the money makers for the company, what do you know about Biosyn and what they were making in order to make all that money?
First thing is those genetically engineered crops that the
Yes.
locust eat. So they're obviously bioengineering farmable things. They're making pharmaceuticals off of dinosaurs or just their own, genetic exploration. And I think pharmaceuticals is a really big one for them
Probably.
as a company, because what Ramsey said about, all the things that they're discovering and how much money is in pharmaceuticals.
Mm-hmm.
And in the books too, they were into pharmaceuticals and things like that. So
Ooh,
I
okay.
think I think they were pulling from that with this movie for sure.
I'm definitely getting more and more excited for us to go deeper into the backstory in the books here. So I'm definitely ready for that part of the conversation. But what else do we learn about Biosyn and from Dominion, specifically in the nefarious realm of it all? Because obviously there's plenty of people that were working there thinking that they're doing something good for the world, but Biosyn is really we can definitely tell that there's something nefarious happening under the surface when it comes to this company, namely with Dodson. Can you explain a little bit more about the nefarious side of Biosyn?
Okay, so we go back to the Locust because this is such a big. Essentially, there's more Locust plotline in the movie than there is dinosaurs.
Right.
So because these locusts are out of control and just destroying, like causing a mass famine essentially, because not enough people use biosyn crops, they're just destroying everything. And
Mm-hmm.
Dachin needs to fix this, because how is he going to make money if the entire population of the world is starving to death?
Right.
So he talks to Dr. Wu, and basically Blue has a child, Beta.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then there's Maisie, who is a clone also. So these two have unique genetic makeups, being direct replicas of something.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow, I'm not entirely clear on this. If Dr. Wu gets them and is able to get blood samples and tissue samples, he's going to, and eventually does, bioengineer a single locust that will, like, stop the other ones from breeding or something like that.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so Dawson's like, "Hey, I need you to kidnap a dinosaur. I need you to kidnap a child." Um and then he hires people who are not very good people, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Uh and when stuff starts to go awry at the sanctuary, he's like, "You know what? I'm just going to kill him. I'm going to eliminate Dr. Malcolm. I'm going to eliminate Ellie Sattler. Maisie, Alan Grant. I'm gonna stop the Hyperloop and just let the Dimetrodons eat them.
So obviously this guy is not too unfamiliar with the dark side of the corporate side of things, and when it comes to obviously his even intention to murder people, do you think that is something that he's always had, or do you think that he was pushed to the brink in Dominion?
So in Dominion, it's strange because he has this sort of like, I'm the CEO of Apple, kind of quirky, unique kind of personality where he's kind of has weird idiosyncrasies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell if he has done this before, because he didn't really get hands-on with it. He just kind of pushed a button and said, that'll take care of my problem.
Right.
And also the way he goes to burn the locusts to get rid of evidence and ends up causing a whole mess.
Right.
Makes it seem like he's just trying to just wipe the board clear and start over. And he's not, to me, the Dominion Dodgson isn't like a straight up just, I'm fine with murdering people. It's just, I will do whatever it takes to get my company back to where I want it to be and fix all the problems that we're having.
Which that seems very, I'm not as familiar with the books as you are, but that seems very Crichton to me, because Crichton definitely in the first Jurassic Park book, and I haven't read The Lost World, so I yet, so I can't speak to that one yet. People are gonna, murder me in the comments, but in the first book, he definitely wants to extrapolate the idea of capital greed, this idea of listen, we are going to get our bottom line. We're going to expand our bottom line. We are going to get the money that we need, no matter the cost. And obviously pushing John Hammond in the book, who was a very nasty dude, to the point of like where he did not care about human life. He cared about these dinosaurs surviving and his park surviving so that he would be able to open it up and get tons of money. And that seems very much a certain persona is being echoed right here with Dodgson. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. The Dominion Dodgson definitely has that kind of, my company and what my company is doing is more important than human life or anything else.
Which, I mean, is definitely coming through. And let me throw this at you too, because I mean, this is something that I was thinking that maybe they were trying to do with Dodgson's character in Dominion, but they just didn't go far enough with it, was that Dodgson, he's actually a character that really got to his place in Biosyn, got to his place in the corporate sphere, in the corporate circles, because of taking risks, taking big chances with investments and investing, just like going out on a limb and making a gamble in order to have a big payoff. So what did he do back in 1993? He made a huge gamble in order to commit illegal corporate espionage by stealing trade secrets, paying off a guy in order to be able to get the Barbasol can with the embryos in it, in order to be able to, get their company up to speed with InGen. And I guess we find out that he gets the Barbasol can somehow, and somehow that ends up paying off. Then we see him in Dominion. He is the CEO. He is the head of the company now. He's making the decisions, and he with the locusts, he went on a big, he made a big gamble by saying, yo, we're going to make these dinosaur locusts, these prehistoric locusts, more accurately for our paleo enthusiasts out there, our paleo enthusiasts, as my dad likes to say, because he's very funny. But these prehistoric locusts, he wants to bioengineer these things in order to go out and eat only other people's crops in order to be able to control the in order to control the world's food supply when it comes to greens and wheat and all that kind of stuff. And so he's making these big gambles in order to try to make big reward. It seems like they're trying to kind of toss that around a little bit that he was willing to make these crazy out there ideas try to work and for the good of himself and furthering his own career. Is that kind of what you got the idea of in Dominion, or do you feel like that's just something that I kind of read into what I was seeing?
No, I think you're 100% correct on that. Dodgson, just through the books, through the movies, at this point with Dominion, it just seems like Dodgson takes risks regardless of the consequences, even if it creates an ecological disaster,
Right.
to get ahead, not only for himself but for his company, but mainly for himself.
Definitely. I mean, the guy's now CEO, and I think this is a good opportunity for us to transition into going to the backstory in the books, because we need to know a little bit more about the understanding of his motives for Jurassic Park, and also the book and the movie, but then also seeing how those seeds of understanding from the books could lead into a better understanding of the character from Jurassic World Dominion. And also, I just kind of want to know where he was at in the company. So let's go ahead and jump into the backstory in the books, beginning with Jurassic Park, the first book, obviously. Where was Dodgson's place in the company, and what did Biosyn really bring to the table as a company in the sphere of this world in the 1990s with 1980s, 1990s with InGen, and Biosyn battling for genetic supremacy?
Okay, so here we go into the book. This is what I've been waiting for.
Me too.
All right, so at the time of the start of Jurassic Park, Dodgson is 34. He's balding, he's hawk-faced, and he's intense. That's how he's described in the book. Now, he was dismissed from Johns Hopkins as a grad student for planning gene therapy on humans without FDA approval.
Wow.
Yeah, so even as early as grad school, he's taking these monumentous risks to get ahead in his field. And he's also, before InGen started making dinosaurs, he flew to Chile on a plane with a bioengineered rabies vaccine without the government knowledge, the government of Chile, or the government of the United States for that matter, in a carry-on bag on a commercial flight where he could easily have infected, because he doesn't know the virulence of this, the entire airplane, essentially. And then once he gets to Chile, he tests it on farmers without their knowledge of what it is.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is where he's coming into the InGen thing. So basically, Biosyn has a board of 10 directors, and he gets permission from the board of 10 directors to do the whole Nedry plan. It's very similar in the book to the movie.
Okay.
Paying him, having him bring the embryos out, and it's actually in a Gillette can in the novel, not a Barbasol can.
Oh man, we've got a huge discrepancy.
Gillette missed out on some money there. Barbasol still cashing in.
For real.
So this is the thing that I mentioned earlier that's kind of like flipped around, where Dodgson and Dominion made locusts that wouldn't eat Biosyn crops. They'd eat everything else. Mm-hmm. Well, Dodgson in the novel believed that InGen was going to make small pet dinosaurs that could only eat InGen pet food. As a money-making scheme. So that's where they got that. They just kind of flipped it around for the film.
That gives me a little more appreciation for Dominion's story there, like making that connection. Still not enough to make me go like that was great, but like I can see what they're doing, and I can appreciate that.
It was very Crichton, but I don't know if maybe if they re-edited the film or something, it would seem better, because that also kind of weighs on me for the quality of Dominion. But it just didn't, as Crichton as it was, and as much as I love Crichton, it didn't feel right for this point in the franchise.
Right. I mean, I would agree with that. Just because of the fact that the movie was meant to be a great ending for the Jurassic saga. And, everybody equates that with dinosaurs, but we got locusts. But, let's get back to the books here, understanding more of the companies after that.
All right. So essentially, Dodson is thinking that because this is where it comes in the book about them being nearly a decade behind in research. Because up until recently, they had no idea until Dodson found out that InGen was even making dinosaurs. So the reason Dodson is even interested, as much as he is in getting these dinosaurs, not only just to advance himself and make money and stuff, is Dodson's kind of on the last straw of the board of directors for Biosyn at this point, because there was the Chile thing. So far, Biosyn's doing stuff like making a paler trout that's easier for fishermen to see in streams, and it's got a bad taste and they sunburn easily. So, as a company, they're not doing as well as they should be at this time period in the late 80s, early 90s for these genetic startups. And another thing that happened is. This is mentioned in The Lost World. Dodson created a strain of genetically engineered potatoes, which he fed to children, and it gave them low-grade diarrhea.
Oh my gosh!
With no FDA approval, no board oversight. He's just doing more human testing.
So this guy's definitely messed up, and he's definitely evil. And that we would definitely considered to be evil, but are we supposed to believe that he's actually doing this because he believes he's doing the right thing, or is he literally just doing this for his own personal gain?
Oh, Crichton makes it very clear. Dodson is only in it for himself.
Oh wow.
Dodson is there taking risks just to further his career and his money and his name.
Oh, so that really definitely puts this guy in a dark light for sure. But when we see, so we have a good idea of its backstory of Dodson with Biosyn. How far does really the first Jurassic Park book go into showing how Biosyn is kind of I'm going to go back and ask this question again. In the first Jurassic Park book, how much of the Biosyn company, how much does it, of the company has a presence in the book? Like how much of the book actually consists of Biosyn being a part of the plot? Is it like just providing that baseline motivation for Nedry to turn the power off and do his espionage like in the movie, or does it actually have some deeper underlying plot threads that we need to be aware of?
So essentially, once our characters leave for the island, Biosyn is completely out of the first novel. All of that information that I had is all from the beginning of the book. It's giving you backstory about Dodson and the company, and then he has that meeting and then pays Nedry, and basically that's it. They're out of it, and then it's all just Nedry from then on.
Which makes sense, and also that's very much in line with the movie, and so we have a somewhat good idea from the movie. But obviously, this sets up this premise of corporate espionage, Biosyn wanting to steal assets and intellectual property from InGen, Biosyn wanting to catch up to InGen's place in the bioengineering market. That obviously sets up for what we then have in the Lost World books for Lewis Dodson then getting involved with that story, because he's actually kind of a much bigger factor in the second book, isn't he?
Oh yes, essentially the main antagonist of the second book is Dodson and his little Biosyn team that goes to Sorna,
which definitely is a huge departure from what we see in the Lost World movie. Which, I mean, both have their strengths and their weaknesses. But when it comes to the book, though, like, what do we see with Biosyn and Dachshund? Because obviously Dachshund doesn't go to Isla Sorna unless he has something to gain. Because what we've learned about his character is that he's out for himself. He will do anything necessary in order to help himself get to a better place, get more money, get better standing in the company, whatever. He's out for himself. So what would possess him to go to the length of going to a dinosaur island himself with a small Biosyn team?
So, Sam, do you remember when I was saying how he was kind of on the last straw of the board? They were kind of like, all right, you need to do something or we're not going to be able, to have you with our company anymore.
I do remember this.
Well, when you gamble over $1 million in the late 80s, early 90s on a plan that doesn't work and you're already in hot water, not great. Not great.
Not great.
Basically, he is trying to find any way to stay in with Biosyn when we get to the Lost World. He's hired a private investigator named Ed Jones, who's keeping track of basically everyone who survived from Nublar. We find out about Ellie. She's doing seminars about paleobotany. Dr. Grant's digging up bones. Well, of course he is. Grant's a digger.
Yep.
We find out Gennaro died on a business trip of dysentery.
Was he going down the Oregon Trail or what's going on?
That was my thought exactly. I don't understand. This fit, muscular, punch a raptor in the face lawyer that we get in the novel died of dysentery on a business trip.
That's something. Okay, well, there it is.
So essentially he's keeping tabs on everyone, and once he finds out that Malcolm is trying to find out what happened to his friend Richard Levine, who is on Sorna, and it's a whole rescue mission. So essentially it's the Sarah plot, but they're going after a different character who's stuck on Sorna, and they build the vehicles and stuff. Well, once Dodgson finds out about Sorna and the fact that there's dinosaurs there living in the wild, he's like, all right, here we go. Game time. Here's how I get back in.
Okay.
So he's not taking any chances. He's going to go himself, and he's not going to worry about embryos. He's going to go steal living, fertilized dinosaur eggs and take them back to the mainland.
There we go. And then from there, he'll be able to hatch those eggs or do experiments on those eggs, get the DNA that he needs, and then they'll be able to do research on the actual dinosaur's DNA that they have right there in front of them.
Yes. And at this point in the novel, The Lost World, Engines filed for Chapter 11. There's no Ludlow. Hammond died in the first novel. There's nothing in his way. Like he mentioned in the first book about having to, if they got the embryos, to genetically alter them to get past the copyrights and stuff of making their own dinosaur that's not identical to what Engine made. Now he doesn't have to worry about that. Now it's just go in, don't even worry about Malcolm and them. Just go get the eggs, get back on your boat, and boom, you're back in business.
That provides a lot of good backstory for understanding his motivations for being there in the first place. So what do we know about, spoiler alert for those who have not read the book, me included. What becomes of number one, Dodgson? But then also number two, what do we learn about understanding really what happens to Biosyn in the Lost World novel? What do we kind of deduce from all this?
So essentially, I'll give you a quick summary here. Dodson, his assistant Egg King, and a paleontologist kind of TV personality, George Basilton, are the ones going after these eggs. They leave on a boat for Sorna. Who shows up at the dock when they're getting ready to leave? Sarah Harding, because she got a call, from Malcolm and them to come to Sorna, and this is the only way she can get there is on this boat.
Okay.
Well, our man Dodgson in the novel is not quite like hands off as Dominion Dodgson. He tries to murder Sarah Harding by throwing her off of a boat. And essentially they get to the island, they start taking dinosaur eggs. They have this like sonic gun thing that like makes a really annoying noise that dinosaurs don't like, saying get in, steal the eggs. Well, it kind of messes up when, wouldn't you know it, they're stealing eggs from the Rex couple.
Ah, there we go.
Yes, so Basilton gets eaten. King runs off and later gets. You can find that out for yourself when you read that, because that's not what we're talking about. But
Okay.
Dodson, I'll leave a little bit of a surprise there.
Thank you.
Dodson basically dies in this combination way of Peter Ludlow and Eli Mills.
Huh.
So he's hiding under a car, and the Rex drags him out from under the car, kind of like what happened to Eli.
Mm-hmm.
And then it carries him, it chomps on his leg and breaks his leg and carries it back. We have where he stepped on one of the legs of the infant, very much smaller than the infant in the Lost World movie, Rex's, and broke its leg. So it's the similar comeuppance for him that Ludlow got, and he gets put into the nest and fed to the babies. He even tries to get up and run away, and the adult Rex knocks him back down, just like Ludlow.
Wow. Oh, man. Huh. That, once again, gives me a greater appreciation for what we saw in the movies, namely The Lost World, which I would assume that Spielberg would want to do a little bit of, homage to. But then also we get to see that with even with J.A. Bayona's the Fallen Kingdom. That's cool. Thank you for telling me that. That
You're
gives
welcome.
me a good appreciation. So obviously, though, that means that good old Dodgson, the good old boy that all of us love to hate,
Yeah,
he's dead. So he's gone. Obviously, he dies in the second book, The Lost World, Jurassic Park. But what about Biosyn? What happens to the company then?
so it's so weird. It's kind of a different ending to the Lost World than what we had with the Jurassic Park novel, because in the Jurassic Park novel, Crichton kind of wraps up and says, "Oh, they're Hammond's dead. The Costa Rican government's investigating the engine, and Grant and the kids and all them are stuck at this hotel." And he gives a little bit of an epilogue to it. The Lost World just kind of ends with them, the survivors, leaving the island on a boat. So we don't hear anything else about it. The only other time that Crichton mentions Biosyn is in his follow-up book about the warnings for bioengineering next. And in that book, there's a company who's looking to have a security firm evaluate their genetics company. The person who's doing the interview for the company says, we have done it for this one, and we've done it for Biosyn Genetics. So even though that's just basically an Easter egg at this point, that's the only other time in the novels that we heard about Biosyn after Dodgson dies.
Man, but you got to appreciate that it was actually mentioned. But quick question for you. What year does that movie, that book that you're talking about, is that next, you said?
Next.
Yeah.
Yes.
What time period does that book take place in?
That came out, I believe now I'm not sure, I didn't take notes on this. I believe Next came out in 2005. So somewhere in the early 2000s is essentially when it's taking place, because he wrote most of his books to talk about what was currently going on that he was seeing.
Do you think that could provide a little bit of leeway for us to understand that Biosyn had survived into the 2000s after the demise of Lewis Dodgson on Sorna?
I would say so, because they're letting him spend money on these crazy schemes, but they're obviously having revenue from other places, not Dodgson, because Dodgson's only doing these kind of crazy, like, let me, test a rabies vaccine. Let me steal some dinosaurs. Let me try and steal some dinosaurs again.
Right. So obviously, they probably went off in a completely different direction. They weren't dealing with dinosaurs or anything like that. That seems like it was, if I'm if I'm not mistaken, Lewis Dodgson's little venture that he wanted to go and try to chase after the dinosaurs that InGen was doing. But Biosyn is just like, great, if you do it, then we have another opportunity to make money. If you don't, then we're just going to keep going in the direction that we already go, which we could probably assume to be regular type of bioengineering, like you were talking about from that we learned about from Jurassic Park, the first novel, which is that they were bioengineering different animals in order to give them quote unquote favorable traits in order to help them help people, either find them fishing or give them different things in order to help quote unquote try to help the human consumption of them. But then they obviously had their hands in the cookie jar in multiple different places. So it makes sense that they would have survived after the Lost World, Jurassic Park, that novel. But when we go back into understanding the concept of Biosyn and what the company really stands for in context of the books, and then applying that to the movies, specifically Jurassic World Dominion, what can we really glean from what we see in Dominion in order to get a better understanding of some of these, like maybe little details or Easter eggs in the movie to better understand the company as a whole? What can we glean from the books in order to try to apply to maybe what they're trying to put in Dominion about the company?
I hate to keep harping on the locusts, but it seems like that's our main entryway into the Dominion Biosyn.
It is, unfortunately. So you harp on that thing.
So even though this went completely different directions, where Dodson was kind of on his way out of the company in the novels and trying to stay into becoming the CEO of Biosyn Genetics in Dominion, even though we have that change, there's still this reckless behavior from him in just the way the company, I mean, he's in charge of it, so no one can really say no in the movie, but the way this company just keeps taking these risks without, thinking of the consequences or actually taking any precautions.
Mm-hmm.
Because if he wanted to do that, he could have just bioengineered regular sized locusts that wouldn't have destroyed the entire ecological system as we know it.
Mm-hmm.
But he just wanted to get it done fast, quick, make that money. Just the way Biosyn is just constantly doing that in both the novel and in Dominion, and even the original Jurassic Park film, which is pretty much the first novel. It's exactly the same. It's this risk-taking behavior for quicker rewards and for financial gain without consideration of the impact it will have on the human population.
I can definitely see that. And I think that when we compare, because the companies are obviously not the same, because number one, the books and the movies obviously have their differences. I mean, we take a huge left turn from what Crichton originally wrote with the Lost World movie from the Lost World book. But so obviously there's differences, but it definitely seems that as companies as a whole, Dodgson is pretty similar at his core. He's a guy that will do anything to get by. He'll do anything in order to get an extra buck, even if it's completely unethical or illegal. He'll do it because it'll make him money. But it seems that Biosyn, even though both companies seem like there's something not good happening in paradise over here for both the books and movies. The books seem like they have the board of those 10 board of directors. It seems like the book has a group of people that make the company inherently evil, whereas in the movies, it seems like the company is like, there's a lot of people that are very well-meaning trying to do the right thing, but you have one man at the top, Lewis Dodgson, who is manipulating that the well-meaning of all these people in order to try to do his own thing and get his own money. Is that accurate to say?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, if we look at the book and the board of directors, essentially they're pushing off any sort of risk on their part of any kind of blowback from what Dodgson does by saying, hey, Dodgson, okay, do your thing, but that's all on you.
Mm-hmm.
So in the board meeting, there's like a stenographer, taking notes of the board meeting, and essentially, the board just nods their heads when Dodson asks if he can do that. So it's not on record.
Mm-hmm.
And then we flip it around for Dominion, where Dodson is at the top of the company and he's making all these decisions, and these other people don't really know what's going on. They're working on these great, pharmaceuticals and cure for diseases and stuff that they're discovering from these prehistoric animals they have here. And I don't think any of them really at all, even the people in the control room, like when he had his little freak out, even knew what was going on.
Oh, that freak out. Yeah, that was something. Maybe Chaz is his son, and it's not Chaz. I mean, sorry, Cash from Camp Cretaceous. Maybe.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, maybe that's his son. Sorry, no, I do not want to lop you in with that mess.
Please no, Cash is awful.
Please no. But I think that you hit the nail on the head there, though. Like that was a much better way of breaking it down compared to what I said. Definitely that Dodson in Dominion is really the one that's leading the nefarious side of things. He's hiring bad people outside of the rest of the company's knowledge in order to further his personal ambitions. The only other person that he seems to that really knows his plans is Dr. Wu. And there's definitely an argument to be made that Dr. Wu is an evil character, though in Dominion they really tried to make him as redemptive, try to redeem his character as much as possible, which, I mean, I'm a sucker for redemptive stories. I will say though that it definitely seemed a little forced because we have 3 other movies to establish that he is a person that really is only seeking after furthering his own science for the sake of doing that. But I will say, I think that the character that I thought Henry Wu would turn out to be would have probably conflicted with or been a mimic of what Dodson was supposed to be in Dominion. And so they wanted to change Wu's character around a little bit and make him and redeem his character in order to be able to kind of give the spotlight of, hey, head bad guy to Dodson. But Dodson's definitely the guy that's like, I'll do anything. I will mess over anyone. I will put anything down in order to make sure that I get what I want. And so, I mean, I really like that Dodson was put forth like that in the movie. I wish that they would have described it a little bit more and that we would have had more to go off of with him and even the whole company of Biosyn in general and Dominion, even though so much time was spent at the compound, at the facility in Italy with, trying to build the backstory of Dodson. It just seemed a little too fast for me. But all that to say, Biosyn as a company is extremely intricately important to the Jurassic franchise overall, and Dominion really wants to hammer that home to making that point clear. And so with all the knowledge that you've provided here today, with both understanding more about the books in order to provide context to the movies and even just reiterating information that we know about what little we know about from the movies, Biosyn's definitely a fascinating company within our Jurassic lore. And it's just incredible to learn more about that. So, I mean, Chaz, in wrapping up here, thank you so much for just providing all this information. You really went deep into all of this. But before we leave it off, though, before we end this video, what would be some like fun facts that maybe you weren't able to get out in the previous segments here that you were just like, I'm begging to say something about Biosyn in this regard?
Oh, okay, sure. Well, one I kind of ham-fisted into there the Easter egg in Next, which was a really fun thing.
Yeah,
reading that book when it came out so long after, the Jurassic Park was the first Crichton novel I ever read, and I read it when I was like 8 or 9. Like I started getting into really big books, and that's when I got hooked on Crichton. And so getting one as it came out, I'm old enough to purchase my own book, go to the bookstore and purchase my own book, with some money I earned doing chores or whatever. It was really cool to see Crichton mention something in essentially the follow-up bioengineering cautionary tale about Biosyn, even if it was just a little little name drop in there. That was really cool to see. And then the other thing is when in the Lost World, when Dodgson went to see if he could go, get the dinosaur eggs off of Sorna, basically the chairman of the board said, "Hey, yeah, but this is it. This is your last chance." So it was really like, this is it. I'll murder Sarah Harding if I have to.
Oh, jeez.
To get this done.
It was definitely a sink or swim situation.
But the cool thing why I brought that up is because, I mean, we all love the vehicles in Jurassic Park. I think all of us fans, especially the Wrangler.
Yes, the classic.
Well, in the Lost World novel, Biosyn has had engineers create this Jeep Wrangler that was a 4-door, the size of a Land Rover Defender. So Crichton came up with the 4-door Jeep Wrangler before Jeep actually did.
That's pretty amazing. That so Michael Crichton gets huge props. Probably his family should be getting royalties, but
royalties,
that's neither here nor there. But that makes me just even more greatly appreciate seeing the Jeep Gladiator Biosyn's vehicles in Dominion. That Jeep Gladiator that Malcolm's bombing around in at the end of the movie. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, dude. Like they incorporated it a little bit into the movie. Like when I first saw like all this stuff coming out about Jurassic World Dominion and seeing some of the teasing of the vehicles before the movie actually came out, I'm like, ooh, they're bringing the Wrangler back, and they're doing the Jeep Gladiator. I wonder if that's supposed to be like a little callback to the original film, kind of like give people like vibes of the Jeep Wrangler from 1993, but now it's 4 doors and it's supposed to be quote unquote cooler. No, this is a callback to what they had actually engineered in the book for the Lost World, which is amazing.
It's another callback to Crichton's source material. His works are like this infinite wellspring of ideas for this franchise. I mean,
right.
There's just so many little things, and I know a lot of people didn't like Fallen Kingdom. I love Fallen Kingdom because they're just reading so many Crichton books, and as much as I reread them, and just the amount of stuff they take from the source material is incredible for these films, and they're still doing it.
And hopefully they'll continue to do it as well, moving into a post-Dominion Jurassic saga, whether it be they go canonically forward in time or they go backward in time and go explore and retread some of the old stuff from the 90s or the early 2000s. I mean, I hope that they continue to delve deep into the books in order to be able to bring forth more Crichton material, because let's be honest, you're loving it. Other Jurassic Park Michael Crichton fans are loving it. It would definitely be an easy crowd pleaser to keep on doing that in the future.
I agree. I would love to see more source material taken for whatever news story they come up with.
Oh, absolutely. And hopefully we get some more of those news stories here soon, and possibly even with Biosyn, kind of be able to explore more of that in-gen Biosyn rivalry. I think that'd be fun. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
That'd be really fun.
Absolutely.
Bring in the tiny elephant even. Why
not?
Yes.
I mean, I know that people want that Hammond prequel show to happen. So maybe that'll be a thing. And maybe Biosyn would be more of a big antagonist in that series, but who knows? But with all that being said, that's actually all the time that we have today. And we did really kind of go over a lot of the information exhaustively when it comes to Biosyn's involvement in the Jurassic Park and Jurassic World saga. And Chaz, I would not have been able to do this video without you. So thank you so much for coming on today. Thank you so much for taking notes, divulging all this wonderful creative information that we need to know in order to better understand Biosyn. And before we go, is there anything else that you wanted to say, Chaz, whether it's to our listeners or to just to better understand what it is to be a Jurassic fan?
Well, first off, thank you for watching Sam's channel. It's incredible, and I love seeing your channel grow. And thank you for having me on again. It's been an absolute pleasure to be here.
Well, dude, it's been wonderful having you, and believe me, this is not going to be the last video that we do together. Hopefully it won't be as long before we do another video together as it was between the last one and this one. But we really do enjoy having you on Dino Park Media. So, Chaz, once again, thank you for joining us today. And before we go, thank you everyone for listening and watching Dino Park Media videos and this video, and for watching this all the way to the end. And if you have not already, we ask that you would please subscribe to the channel. It greatly helps us out, and it helps us to be able to not only hopefully get out to more Jurassic fans that want to see our material, but also helps us know that you are enjoying it and that it helps us to create more videos. But also, if you want to support us directly, we also have a spring merchandise store with new designs on it for just in time for Jurassic World Dominion era here this summer, as well as some other stuff that we've got up our sleeves. So go ahead and check that out, and you can support us directly while also getting some really cool merch. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining both Chaz and myself today. My name is Samuel. You are watching Dino Park Media. Before we go, have a great rest of your day, and know you are loved.